Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
Sometimes when it comes to Baltimore, they find a way to surprise me. Because if you don't know, for any Browns fan that has either lived through or has people that they respect, elder Browns fans in their life that have lived through the Browns being torn out of Cleveland unjustifiably, will tell you there is no organization's ownership that Browns fans have more disdain for than the Baltimore Ravens, and I think it's for very good reason. Now, keep in mind, the Modell family does not majority own the Baltimore Ravens anymore. I forget the name. I think it's the Bashottis now that own it. They bought it from the Modells. I think the Modells still have some kind of like a large minority stake in the Baltimore Ravens. But, you know, for the most part, day to day, they don't run the Baltimore Ravens. And I think that's a good thing for obvious reasons, because I think the Modell family was terrible at managing a team and managing the relationship that the team had with the community while they were in Cleveland. But also, it's fortunate for the Ravens because this little stunt that they pulled for this game against the Cleveland Browns would be interpreted far more negatively if the Modell family still owned the Baltimore Ravens. Now, some of you might not know 100% what I'm talking about. Maybe you're a new Browns fan. Maybe you're an international fan who just picked up the Browns over the last 5 years, and you don't really get the big hubbub about the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns. I'll give you the too long, didn't read version of it, right? I'm not going to go into the detail of what exactly happened. There are plenty of good documentaries that exist about what happened. You can watch the Cleveland 95 NFL Network documentary if you want to know exactly what happened in the opinions of the time of what happened with the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. But essentially, in 1994, Art Modell started to get broke. Also around that time, the Browns were playing in Municipal Stadium, which is in the same spot where Cleveland Browns Stadium is today. But it was a multi-purpose, originally built to try to get Cleveland the Olympics in the 1920s, stadium that the Browns shared with, at the time, the Cleveland Indians. That shared partnership, I think, went away around the mid-90s when Jacobs Field opened in downtown Cleveland. Also, around that time, the Cavs moved from Richfield, which is nowhere near downtown Cleveland. Like, for people who are complaining about Brook Park, the Browns playing in Brook Park, could you imagine driving all the way down to Richfield to see the Cavaliers? That used to be the reality. I mean, that's basically Akron, dog. But anyways, the Cavs moved from Richfield to downtown Cleveland around that time. And Art Modell gets a little FOMO, right? He's dealing with this old stadium that needs to be replaced. He wants money for the city to get a new stadium. I think the city was willing to give him money, but it wasn't the money that he needed to build the stadium. And basically what happened was Art Modell was too broke to hold up his end of the deal that the city wanted to offer him for the contract for the stadium, right? Like, the city was offering a certain amount of money. Art Modell was broke because he was a bad businessman, and he spent like all his he had to take out like several credit card loans to sign Andre Rison to a guaranteed contract in 94. Like, all kind of silly shit that Art Modell was doing, somehow not making money with the Cleveland Browns. All this stuff was going down. It caused them to need more money to build a stadium. The Browns, the city of Cleveland, did not want to give them more money than what they were originally offering. This led to a big stalemate, and then Art Modell ran to Baltimore, where Baltimore offered to give him all the money to build the stadium and to help subsidize his debt to be able to stay in business, basically. And that's how the Ravens ended up in Baltimore. You know, that's how that happened. It wasn't because the Browns fans didn't support the team. Browns fans are notorious for supporting this team to the T. It wasn't because the team couldn't get something worked out to get a new stadium built. Eventually, we saw the stadium get built in Cleveland like 5 years later. It was just because Art was broke, Art needed money, Baltimore gave him money, right? So he sold out the Browns, the history of it, the legacy of it. We're talking about a bedrock franchise in the NFL, a franchise that has existed since the 1940s. He sold that out because he was going broke. A gross display from Art Modell and a gross usage of the responsibility of the civic meaning of the Cleveland Browns. But anyways, that's why the Baltimore Ravens are in Baltimore and are the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the common misconception with this, and this is something I get tired of arguing about with people who did not grow up understanding the move and don't know what they're talking about when it comes to the move, or maybe they played for the Ravens and they just spread misinformation. The Ravens are not the old Browns, technically. The Ravens are the Ravens. That's why the Ravens don't have Jim Brown's number retired, right? What happened when Art Modell tried to move the team to Baltimore was that the NFL stepped in and said, you can't just move the Browns to Baltimore. You're not going to call them the Baltimore Browns. It's not going to happen. The city also sued to make sure that they retain the rights to the Cleveland Browns and the history to the Cleveland Browns as well. Again, it's why like Jim Brown's number isn't retired in Baltimore, because the Baltimore has no history predating 1996. The Browns were technically deactivated and then reactivated in 1999. And Baltimore was a new franchise that got to inherit all of the current assets of the Cleveland Browns when it comes to players and coaches. So they got the roster, the draft picks, the players, the coaches that the Browns had in 95. And obviously, some of those draft picks turned into Ray Lewis. Some of those draft picks turned into Jonathan Ogden. They win a Super Bowl. Browns fans are pissed. So that's the history of the Browns and the Baltimore Ravens and why Browns fans have no love for the Baltimore Ravens organization. This stunt that Baltimore is pulling, I think, is just, I don't know. Maybe I'm too sensitive about the issue, but it does piss me off. I'm going to tell you why it pissed me off in just a second here, but real quick, let's get a shout out to our sponsor for today, Sleeper.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today, get up to $100 credit using the code WORSTTAKE. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
So what the Baltimore Ravens are doing, they're celebrating their 30th season of operation, right? They're celebrating the 30 seasons, and they're having a Super Bowl 35 reunion. And all of this stuff. They're doing their 30th season celebration. And I don't know. This feels like more than a coincidence to me. But their 30th season celebration, which is not just selling 30 seasons of the Baltimore Ravens existing, but 30 seasons since the Baltimore Ravens, or since Art Modell stole the Cleveland Browns or attempted to steal the Cleveland Browns from Cleveland. That game is happening against Cleveland, September 14th. You know it as this Sunday. Now, maybe this is just fun, right, for Baltimore. This is just a cute little joke that they could throw in there. Maybe it's truly a coincidence. We're their first home game. They didn't get to make the schedule, right? And I'll give them that. They didn't get to make the schedule. We're their first home game. They decided to celebrate this 30th season all the way back in March, right before the schedule came out. So you can make the argument that it's not intentional. You can make the argument as well that the Baltimore Ravens requested to the NFL, hey, look, if we can get the Browns for our first home game, we would prefer that. I think that's probably what happened. Again, you can't pick your own schedule. You can't pick it. But you can suggest things, right? That does happen. For example, the Bengals and the Steelers put in a bid to be the Black Friday game after Thanksgiving every year to try to get that rivalry some more juice. The NFL declined to do that, right? So every year, teams throw in things and have some suggestions. Sometimes it's like when the Browns play internationally, they get to choose who they play after they come back or choose to get the bye. Sometimes you get more options, but you aren't, as an NFL team, just completely beholden to the schedule holders. You can suggest things. I can't believe this was not a suggestion. This is too convenient. And, look, I get why Baltimore thinks this is cute. I get why Baltimore thinks this is probably funny, right? I don't think Baltimore really understands how much this pisses people off from Cleveland. Like, and for a team that has lost a team, right? The Baltimore Ravens had the Colts stolen from them. So some of their fans do understand the pain of losing a team, but they don't really get it when it comes to Cleveland. Because whenever you talk to Baltimore fans, they feed you the standard bullshit of, well, you got your team back, so what's the big deal? And it's like, are you kidding me? You're literally celebrating the assets that you inherited from this team when you took it unjustifiably. This year, like, that's Ray Lewis on the poster. The Browns had the draft pick for Ray Lewis well before the team ever moved from Cleveland. So this idea that, we didn't lose anything, we got our team back, what's the big deal, when they constantly make fun of the state that the team has been in since 1995, since 1999, my bad, I think it's just batshit insane that they try to act like they don't understand why we would still be upset about this. And yeah, there is some truth to 30 years have passed. We can't blame everything on having to rebuild in 1999. I get that, right? Like, I'm not sitting here saying the Browns' problems all link back to 1999. But let's not act like the Browns weren't dealt a rough card. Let's not act like the Browns weren't given a rough deal here, and all of those things. And Baltimore celebrating that rough deal that the Cleveland Browns have, it just feels tone deaf. You know, it just feels like one of those. It's like when the FBI tweets about Martin Luther King on MLK Day. It's like, why? Why are you talking right now? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I understand why this is happening, but I don't like it. And I hope this Browns team gets fired up about this. I hope some of the local guys on this team, like Harold Fannin, like Denzel Ward, get fired up about this. I hope some of the guys who aren't local inherit this and understand the disrespect that's happening to Cleveland this Sunday. Not only are you a double-digit underdog, you're a 10-point underdog. Everybody's counting you out after they saw the Baltimore Ravens blow a 15-point lead on Sunday Night Football, looking super impressive in that fourth quarter, right? Everybody's counting you out, acting like you can't win this game, acting like you've never beat Baltimore before, acting like you never beat Lamar Jackson before when you did it last season when you won 3 games, counting you out. And not only are they counting you out, they're literally celebrating stealing that shit from you. Like, literally celebrating it. And look, once Cleveland popped up as that first home game, they did have a choice to say, hey, look, we can celebrate 30 years next year. Because they weren't incorporated until 1996. They're celebrating 30 seasons. That's why it feels intentional to me. But anyways, this is the kind of shit that makes Browns fans hate the Baltimore Ravens. This is why Browns fans celebrate the downfall of the Baltimore Ravens. Ironically enough, it has nothing to do about football. Like, everything I hate about the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'll give Pittsburgh this. All that shit is football. The Steelers have put me through pain, okay, as a Browns fan. They have hurt me. They have ruined seasons for the Cleveland Browns. The few promising seasons that the Browns have had outside of 2020 where the Browns beat that ass in front of 40 million people, according to Nielsen records on NBC primetime. But other than that, in Heinz Field, by the way, Big Ben's never beat the Browns in the playoffs. Fun stat. But other than that, right, the Steelers have inflicted pain. Antonio Brown, pain, doing unspeakable things to Joe Hayden. And then Joe Hayden leaving the Browns to go to Pittsburgh. Pain. I get mad just thinking about it, right? Sealing the 0-16 season. Pain. What else did Pittsburgh do? Oh, beating us to keep us out the playoffs in 07, beating us in the playoffs in 2002. Just pain. The Browns, it's the Browns. Hines Ward. Pain. We hate Pittsburgh and Cleveland because Pittsburgh has hurt us on the football field. There's really not that much of a beef between Cleveland and Cincinnati other than like the whole it's Cleveland versus Ohio thing, right? Like the Southern Ohio versus Cleveland thing. You know, there's a little bit of a beef there, but it's not really like that real. I don't have that much animosity towards the Cincinnati Bengals. I just don't like them, right? You know what I mean? Like, it ain't that deep. I can still admire the Cincinnati Bengals players if they're really good, but I don't like when they win. You know, it's a rivalry. It's a standard rivalry, right? It's like, you know, the beef between Ohio State and like Wisconsin. You know, it's a rivalry for sure. You know, you get up for that game. It's a big game. It's just like, you know, if we didn't play the Bengals for you, I'd probably be fine. But Baltimore, that's the one team I wish nothing good for. And it has nothing to do with what's happened on the football field. The Browns' history versus Baltimore hasn't been great, but there hasn't been many heartbreaking losses to Baltimore. Like, the only thing I could think of is the Pookie Scoot game on Monday Night Football where Lamar Jackson got diarrhea, came back after the diarrhea and threw that touchdown, and that cost the Browns the division. But still, even then, losing the division allowed us to play Pittsburgh that year in the playoffs, and I don't know if I'm trading that memory, dog. Like, beating the shit out of Pittsburgh in Heinz Field, it's worth losing the division over. So, like, again, no real pain that Baltimore has caused me. Sure, they've given us ass whippings, but they haven't harassed us in the way that Big Ben has harassed us over the years. They're just another team that you're a rival with. The thing that puts it over the top is that they don't understand why we don't like them. Like, they don't get it. Every time you try to get the Ravens to get it, they keep demonstrating more lack of understanding of why it is that we don't like them and why it is that we're not going to hold Art Modell up. That's another thing that the Ravens do to drive me crazy. They're hell-bent on repairing the reputation of Art Modell, and I'll just let that man go. Let that man go. Seriously, Art Modell forced Jim Brown to retire. He forced Paul Brown to leave Cleveland and create the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, this man's track record is horrendous. He went bankrupt signing Andre Rison to a one-year deal. They don't want to let that man go. They don't understand why the Browns hate Art Modell. They think our lack of appreciation for Art Modell's accomplishments in life is disrespectful to them. Okay, you want to inherit that beef, that's whatever with you. But yeah, that's why I hope the Browns really just surprise the Ravens this week, surprise the NFL world. Because for a team that shut down a MVP level quarterback in Joe Burrow, right? Everybody talks about how good Joe Burrow is and how it would be great to have a quarterback like Joe Burrow and how he's the next Tom Brady. Browns hold him to 7 net yards, and people acting like we just gonna get curb stomped by the Ravens. Disrespect. And then we're gonna let the Ravens just celebrate 30 seasons on us. Disrespect. I hope to God that the Browns do something, ruin the Ravens' little celebration, because this shit is disrespectful, man. Like, there's no way around it. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.